Hello everyone! Today we will be setting up my October bullet journal. The inspiration was a $5 tablecloth from Target. I'm not even lying, you guys. I really wanted to incorporate spider webs and a lot of black and white contrast. The cover page resembles a broken wreath. It represents a dead forest with harvest pumpkins all tied together with a neat little bow. The bow reminds me of Beetlejuice. I got this idea from Pinterest and had a lot of fun drawing it. It's funny how much a pattern can transform a bow into a spooky accessory. I tried to add as much detail as possible while keeping the design simple and easy to recreate. My drawing skills aren't the best, but stripes are hard to mess up. Never be afraid of making your drawings asymmetrical. You can always add ruffles or shadows to compensate. Either way, ribbon ends are never the same even in real life. For my pumpkins, I mainly did 5 ovals overlapping. There's a simple 5-step tutorial on Pinterest. Speaking of pumpkins, one thing I will not be doing this year is carving one. It's way too messy. I'm going to try painting one instead. I had a pumpkin carving party last year, and my boyfriend and I teamed up to make Mr. Stitches. We used skewers to sew up his mouth. I also made a giant pumpkin cake that was totally delicious. I decided to feature my calendar next to the title. It's just easier to keep track of the days that way. Drawing spiderwebs is a lot more fun than dealing with them in real life. If you watched my Halloween home decor video from last year, you know what I'm talking about. I loved drawing these kiddish spiders, and making the web was very zen. Sometimes repeating the same pattern over and over puts you in a very relaxed mood. I used my thinnest pen, 0.2 millimeters, to draw the web. That way, when I colored over it with gray marker, the sketch would look wispy. The markers I am using are Primrosia dual tip pens, a Christmas gift from last year. They have a fine tip that allows you to color in small edges. Halloween falls on a Monday this year, but I'm hoping to still get trick-or-treaters. I want to be that house everyone is talking about, hold chocolate bars, glowing wristbands, packs of nerds. Back to the pens, the fine tip side was fantastic for filling in the small spaces between the bow lines. I also used my Sakura pens because they're indistinguishable from marker. This could have easily become the most tedious task during the drawing process, but I like concentrating on small details. This bow is not only in the center of the drawing, but it's the main element that catches your eye. You want it to be pretty spectacular. Just take your time. It's for a whole month. The pumpkins didn't need that many markers. I believe I used 3 in the end, a brown, bright orange, and a darker orange for shading. Which reminds me, I have yet to try pumpkin cheesecake. It's in my fall to-do list. I just gotta find it or make it. By the way, you don't have to keep this color scheme. That's the great thing about pumpkins. You can do yellow, green, blue, or a combination of all. I also considered adding leaves to the bottom of the page as if the trees had just been blown away, but a clean, gothic look fits my aesthetic more. Here's that wispy spiderweb I was talking about earlier. I loved this gray. I did the moon in the same shade and then darkened the trees a little bit. Ooh, spooky. To my surprise, I used color pencils for the center. I really wanted a muted color that subtly changed. Writing October was nerve-wracking. It amazes me that people can do different fonts in their bullet journals. I write like a horse. And here's my final cover page and calendar. The next 2 pages are my mood tracker and my habit tracker. The only mood tracker I liked on Pinterest was of a cauldron with bubbles representing the days of the month. It reminded me of Hocus Pocus so much. I did use a shapes ruler for the circles, but then I freestyled on top of the pencil. I made a key at the top for my 3 moods: happy, unsure, and sad. I made a pretty chunky cauldron so you can throw a kid or 2 in there. I can't believe I'd never drawn a cauldron until now. I mean, I love witches, but as a kid, all of my creepy drawings consisted of eyes. Just eyes. My friends can vouch for this. For my habit tracker, I stuck to trusty number grids. I drew another spiderweb in the corner to match the front pages. These two little spiders are just hanging out. Then it was time for some candy corn. As I've said before, I don't like the taste, but I love the look of this candy. This is another basic shape that is really hard to mess up. I created a line of falling candy corn to bring back that orange from the pumpkins. I ended up with 7 habits to track this month. This is way more reasonable than the 20 I started with at the beginning of the year. I totally overextended myself. Raise your hand if you're a perfectionist. Ironically, I'm trying to work on it with more lists. I love the green I chose for this potion. It's the same color as my Ray Dunn magic mug. Also, the purple was a lot of fun. I almost used more of a fuchsia, which would not have looked good. I wonder how purple ended up becoming a Halloween color. Like, it's so bright and happy. This comes from the girl who owns 2 purple wigs. Don't ask. I loved the flow of the smoke. It feels like it keeps going beyond the page. And I'm still unsure whether I chose the right colors for my moods. I know most people would use red for a bad day, but I prefer blue. Red is more of a borderline day. What are you guys tracking this month? I'm prioritizing self-care, and I have yet to finish a single book. I would also love to do some baking and be more active on Instagram. I don't like to wait for the end of the year to try and revamp my routines. I think you can start anything at any time. The earlier the better. And here's my final mood tracker and habit tracker. The next 2 pages are the first week of the month. What I loved about this drawing is that it reminded me of my Martha Stewart haunted neighborhood. That's one of my favorite Halloween decorations that I put in my bookshelf. I loved the crooked shape of the homes, the random graves, the broken fences. Everything about this scene screams Night of the Living Dead. This drawing is very monochromatic. I'm pretty sure I used up almost all of my black marker with this. It's an illusion that everything is dark, that night has taken over. The tiny bats flying across makes the pages look wider. I'm also a big fan of trees with personality. I left a space in the middle to add a third one after I'd finished the moon. The moon is the main character here, but it can't totally overshadow the houses. Pun intended. At first, I planned to totally paint it gray, but then it would blend too much with the homes, so I ended up coming up with a technique to still manage to make it stand out. But before anything, I need to make outlines. Everything had to be crisp, clean, and well defined. One accidental swipe from the marker could be disastrous. I was very lucky that I had no bleed through my pages. This bullet journal has officially survived watercolors, coffee, chocolate, and an Australian Shepherd. So as this neighborhood comes to life, would anyone like to share what they're going to be this year for Halloween? I'm between going back to my T-Rex costume or New Age witch costume, or just going totally new this year. I also want to dress up Charlie, but he's one of those dogs that you can't even put a bandana on. He will take it as a personal offense. For the windows, I decided to make the eerie light from within orange. However, afterwards, I realized this made them look like basketballs. It will be more apparent when I color in the O. I mean, I still love it. I just wish, I'd chosen a lighter shade. I really loved how these houses turned out. It's such a simple concept, but it will really make your monthly spread stand out. And placing it right in the center of the page is a great way to divide your week. If you want to be more ambitious, you can make an even bigger neighborhood, though I would suggest getting 2 black markers then. The biggest challenge was the moon. Like I said, I had to adapt a special technique so that the gray would stand out behind the black. I decided to do individual marks instead of pressing hard on the marker. This created an effect that left some white in the design. It reminded me a lot of a stop-motion movie, especially A Nightmare Before Christmas. Of course, it took forever to complete. I don't feel like a bright moon would really work in this situation. This one is a little more sinister, like a monster in the sky. Here are the basketballs I was talking about. They do look kind of funny. But yeah, afterwards, all I had to do was add a little more detail and write over the dates and notes. A lot of people chose to start their calendar on the 3rd, which is Monday, but I'm totally fine with starting my month on the weekend. And lastly, I added that tree in the center. I initially planned on making it bigger, but I loved the moon so much I didn't want to cover it. And here's the final design. Thank you so much for watching. As usual, I would appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. Until next time, bye!